What's up guys, it's Project, and since patch 1.04 changed a ton of stuff, this video I'm going to go over what I think are the top 5 weapons slash ashes of war that got buffed from the patch that you should definitely check out now. I will showcase each weapon with a quick mini build, taking on some of the final bosses in the game, so spoilers ahead, but if you're looking for a new build, these 5 should definitely be in consideration, and if you want to see more top 5s in the future, make sure to smash that like button and leave a comment on what you'd like me to cover. Top 5 strength, spells, flask, feat, etc. So without further ado, let the top 5 begin. Starting with number 5 is the newly buffed Godslayer Greatsword. Patch 1.04 increased the attack speed and damage of all colossals, and Godslayer being one of the fastest colossals to begin with just means it's even better now. Its skill, the Queen's Black Flame, also received a buff, having faster cast speed and the ability to cancel the animation with a roll nearly whenever you want. You can even trigger the beginning animation and cancel it before you can even consume FP, which still does damage to the enemy. And if you can pull the full Queen's Black Flame off, it hits like a truck and further decreases the HP of foes with the Black Flame special property. And it's even got the overused and OP CGS crouch poke, so overall I think the patch did good for it, taking out Millennia fairly easily and chunking the worst boss in the games. Please stop making him run around so much, Elden Beast, whenever you can manage to actually hit it. For the build, here it is, Godslayer Sword and Seal. This armor set up to get 57 poise, and these talismans so you can mix in some of the Black Flame incantations and still be decently tanky. And these are the stats before using Godric's Rune at level 125, Prophet. All these builds are going to be on my Prophet character, so they're not all min-max, but generally these are the stats you kind of want to aim for, and you can find Godslayer at this big tower here in the Caelid region, after beating the Godskin boss there, which is shortly near the Dragon Farm area at Fort Ferrith. Number 4 is the only Ash of War skill for the video, but the buff was so good I had to include it over the other things I tested, which were like Moonlight Greatsword or the Golden Order Greatsword, but the skill is Lion's Claw, that you can put on big weapons and colossals. This was buffed in 1.04 twice with better cast speed and better recovery, and this thing already had hyper armor as well, so one of the few skills that allow you to ignore most attacks. For the build, I put it on Prelate's Hammer or the Guts Greatsword if you want a PvP, which both are colossals, so faster now from the patch as well. But yeah, with the buff, it can now somewhat compete with Royal Knight's Resolve jump spam builds. Nearly every boss I fought, it was smooth sailing, and it even pancakes Millennia, which is pretty funny. But in PvP, I don't think it's too amazing. However, it can't really roll catch that well, so you gotta time your attacks very carefully if you want to land it. So in that scenario, I think Giant Hunt is still better, but overall, really great for PvE. Here's the build, which is pretty close to what I would make if I made a dedicated build for it. You want heavy scaling on the weapons because we were going all strength, so you can then buff with a grease like fire, lightning, or even rot if you wanted to slowly sap at enemies. And here are the stats, thick. But to get Lion's Claw, you need to defeat the lion at Fort Gale in the Caelid region here. Now, top 3 is where things kind of go to the next level. I would say the past ones were about B+ to A- tier, while these are A to A+ tier for sure. So numero 3 is Mariah's Executioner Sword. In patch 1.04, the range of the charge attack of its Eochaid Dancing Blade was extended, and you now have the ability to basically cancel the final sword swipe, which definitely held the weapon back in 1.03. But with that gone, now you can do a normal or charge Dancing Blade, get the full screw attack, and then roll to do the next one, leading to insane DPS. Out of all the top 5 today, this thing's damage is number 1. As you can see in the back, absolutely destroying everything. And it's so strong because of just how much you can buff it, particularly with consecutive attack boosts, which the drill triggers very quickly, leading to over 2k AR when fully boosted. So super nutty. However, the weapon itself kind of falls short otherwise, in PvP especially, so that is why it is number 3. I'd argue the short sword is better for PvP if you dual wield it, but yeah, I'm probably going to make this weapon into a full min-max build, but the build used today, I opted for a low buff build, just using Flask and Flame Grant Me Strength for damage. And I even went with mostly Briar Armor and even the Great Shield for no particular reason, just having fun. The talismans are what you want mostly, however. The Rotten Sword Insignia, Alexander's Shard, and Godfrey Icon all affect Dancing Blade. For stats, here they are with the Albinoric Helm. Equipped, you kind of need to specifically gear for the weapon as it scales with Strength Arcane, so it's a bit odd, especially since magic attack increases the skill's damage. But to get the Executioner Sword, you'll have to beat the Briar Knight at the Shaded Castle here in Altus Plateau. Just take the Valley Path to reach it, and you get the armor set as well. Number 2 is Mohg's Spear. That's right. It was buffed in 1.04, increasing the cast interval speed between each of the Bleed Explosion AoE things. Meaning more DPS, yay, this is what we want. This is already a great weapon prior to 1.04, and now it's better. And while Bleed did get a small nerf to stagger in PvP, in PvE, it still destroys, and was really surprised just how strong this was against Malenia and the like. Tons of damage, and the AoE is huge, so while in 1v1s the weapon is kind of okay, since most people can just avoid it. In invasions, the AoE is OP, being able to hit multiple players at once for tons of damage. Definitely a strong bleed weapon for invasion specifically, but for the build, naturally prioritize bleed thingies, like Vari Mask and Blood of Exaltation Talisman. For stats, here they are, but I had Godric's Rune on, so just take away 5 points from everything if you want to replicate it. And if it wasn't obvious already, I like Poise, so a lot of endurance and chunky armor at the cost of some damage. Mohg's Spear is obtained by beating Luminary Mohg at Mohgwyn Palace, which you can get to after doing Vari's quests. Just make sure to kill Vari's invaders and such before you kill Mohg, so you can get the White Mask armor set and stuff. And finally, number 1. Let's see if you guys guessed it. The best weapon buff for patch 1.04, I feel, was Morgoth's Curved Sword. This, I think, is A+ tier, if not S tier now. Pre-patch, this weapon was already solid, it just wasn't over the top like Rivers of Blood, or really compared to any of the bleed meta weapons. But in PvP, it was a good weapon, I felt, since it's got looping attacks, and the Cursed Blood Slice, its Ash of War, was already good at roll catching. Well, with 1.04, it got 2 buffs, increased cast speed and increased recovery time. So now the skill is amazing. It's fast, it has hyper armor innately, and now you can roll out or do another attack faster after using this skill. Really, this is number 1 as it has the biggest PvP potential out of everything here. It's probably the most well-rounded as well, with great roll catching, range, and it makes it hard for people to roll into you compared to something like Rivers of Blood or Naginatas. And in PvE, as you see, does fairly well on a standard bleed build. You won't trigger bleed that often, but the split fire damage can still do nice damage, and the initial run-in can even stun smaller enemies, making the follow-up guaranteed. So yeah, super happy with the weapon, it's definitely fun to play, and definitely something I'll make a dedicated build video about. But for now, this is the quickie build I slapped together. Put Flock's Talisman in case you want arcane incantations like Blood Talons or Boon, or even a Gil Breath similar to my Rivers of Blood build, and yeah, chunky stats. I'm not too sure if bleed is totally worth investing in for the sword. Maybe. It just doesn't seem to apply that fast, although I suppose for PvP it does alright. But yeah, Dex Arcane for most damage. And you get this weapon simply by beating Morgoth in Altus Plateau around here. He's a mandatory boss, so everyone will have this weapon. And that is the top 5 newly patched weapon skills for 1.04. I tested some other things, but they fell short compared to these. But yeah, definitely worth trying out. If you enjoyed the list, smash that like button and comment down below if you agree with the list, or what do you guys think are worth using now after patch 1.04. Let me know, and if you want more videos like this, subscribe and hit the noti for more Elden Ring Epic.